Welcome back, everyone. This is Mo Al-Sumidai, Chief Editor of the Clinical Trial Vanguard, and I'm here with Manny Vazquez, who is the Senior Director of Clinical Data Strategy at Veeva. Pleasure to have you here.
Yeah, Mo, thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
So, Manny, you've said it's time to think differently about EDC, and I know you're doing a lot of podcasting with Veeva. And since layering custom solutions on top has created like a cluster, you're talking quite a bit about that. What do you think has kept companies clinging to these workarounds for so long? And what turning point are we at right now that makes a reset possible?
I think there's a lot of companies out there that have leadership in place that, for better or worse, they're 20 years in now. Over that time, they've built out these tech stacks and these processes as the need arises, and they found best-of-breed solutions for tools when they needed them, and needed a way to connect the dots. And they're proud of what they've been able to put together, but at the same time, it's wholly inefficient. That's something that we're hoping to be able to influence and kind of break the wheel a little bit to inject more of a platform approach, and not just in clinical data, but across life sciences. So you can achieve that more end-to-end, automation and scale. I think with AI coming into the conversation now, we've been in a hype cycle for a while. I think some people have recognized that, but we all understand that this is going to be an integral part of how we work. And I think because it's a completely new computing paradigm. It's not it's not an evolution of something we already have. It is something that's going to force everyone to really take a good hard look at their process, because you're either AI ready or you're not. And if you're not, you will have a lot of catching up to do. So,
I mean, you can't have AI implementation without structured and organized data in one repository or multiple repositories, but access to that data.
I don't want to overlap one of the other questions that I know is on there, but yeah, like we're kind of leading into one of those.
Yeah, I mean, so you talk about one solution and automation, and the promise is efficiency, but the risk is oversimplification also. So from your vantage point, how do you avoid reducing complexity in ways that strip out the necessary nuances in trial data?
I don't know if I would say, when we talk about simplicity and the idea of making things more simple, that we're necessarily talking about making it less volume. I don't think we're saying that we need to do less or collect less to make it simple. I think what we're aimed at is more like we need to make the processes because we understand that we have a lot of data now. What we do now is complex. What's coming next is also going to be complex. And you cannot stack complexity on top of complexity and expect a positive outcome, because it just can't support. So I think what our message is, what we would like to see is not dumbing down any of the underlying content or any of the underlying data, but the ways in which that we're collecting and processing it and moving it through the pipeline. We need to make those processes simpler. We need to make the way in which people have to interact with this data, if they have to interact with it at all, right? Because I'm sure we'll talk about automation. That needs to be simpler. The effort that people spend on these things just has to be easier, whether that's with better tools, a better user experience, more configuration, less, or I guess more options when it comes to, configuration as opposed to customization.
You're talking about the simplicity in the process itself and the processing of data, but not necessarily the amount and the volume of data that goes in there.
Yeah, correct.
So that's key.
We want to be able to take in as much as you need, right? Like we're a vendor. We create software to enable you as a pharma company to do what you need to do. We are at we serve at your pleasure to be able to, run the trials that you want to run, to collect the data that you want to collect. We can have conversations about whether or not the volume of data that gets collected on a trial is too much or too little, and that's maybe a conversation for another day. But whatever you decide to collect, we need to enable you to be able to do that, and in order to do it well, certainly at the scale we're seeing over the last couple of years, and certainly over the next 5+ years, we need to make the ways in which we do it a lot simpler, or we're just going to overwhelm the people that are doing it.
Mm-hmm. So we touched a bit on AI, and they often, as you're mentioning, this kind of like framed as a future vision for clinical research. But you've also argued that companies should be layering the foundation, which we just talked about. What does that foundation look like from a practical standpoint? And what would you say are the biggest mistakes that organizations right now are making when it comes to preparing for AI implementation?
Well, I think one of the biggest mistakes is just not preparing for it, or assuming that what you have already is going to be an adequate foundation to layer AI on top of. When, as far as preparing for AI, like certainly we've all known for a good amount of time now that AI was coming. I think it was, a couple of years ago when ChatGPT hit, is all of a sudden it wasn't viewed as an evolution anymore. Like it just arrived. Like ChatGPT came out and now it's like AI's here. And we're no longer prepping for a marathon. The sprint just started and the gun's been fired and everyone's kind of scrambled. And that's where I think the hype cycle kind of, went up to 11, if you will. But I would say as far as organizations who have been, thoughtful about the coming of AI and getting ready for it, I mean, I'll use, Veeva as an example. And some of this predates me. I'm here with Veeva a little over 3 years now, but I think Veeva's always been thoughtful about what AI was going to be and what we were going to need in order to make it work. So talking from like a clinical data perspective specifically was, what are you going to need as an organization to run AI? Because we knew we were going to have it in our technology at some point, but more importantly for us was we knew the industry was going to do it. We knew like big pharma companies were going to want to do their own thing. They have lots of their own data and they're going to be training their own models. They're going to be doing a lot of custom, just things that are maybe proprietary, but we needed to be able to allow them to do it. So what were they going to need? For one, as you said, you need all the data in one place. We've talked in data for a number of years now that things are just all over the place. There's too many data sources and people are trying to wrangle it all. You need it all in one place. So we recognize this, and now we have a product called CDB that does just that. The second thing that you were going to need, once you have all the data in one place, is you needed to be able to access it at a steady and high frequency. So we spent the next couple of years building out what we call it's a study file format API.
So like we're really focusing on AI, right?
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
And what it looks like from like a practical term, and what are the biggest mistakes you see that the organizations are making?
Oh, so then, So this was all in an effort to automate as much of that data layer as you possibly can. Because that's the foundation that you need AI to sit on top of. It needs to be able to reference all this data, have access to all this data, and be able to do something with it, whatever it is whether it's agentic AI, whatever AI you're doing. And I think that's where we see most organizations yet to really invest heavily is getting the foundation set.
So you're talking about EDC being the center of data management and the center of the future of data management, which will of course involve wearables and real world evidence and genomics data. And where do you see like one of the things that FDA even talks about in one of its guidances is data fragmentation. And I think it was in the DCT guidance. They talk about data fragmentation and the importance of putting that together. We know this is the future. It's where things are headed. There's going to be wearables, maybe even implantable devices, which are constantly collecting data. Where do you see the greatest risk of fragmentation in the future when it comes to integrating all these technologies?
I would probably argue that EDC is really not the center of the universe anymore. Maybe it's on its waning period of that role, but I would say that as more and more of those sources come up, right, wearables, which are being used now, like a lot of those things, the connected devices and biomarkers, all types of all types of data sources that are being pulled in now. EDC is just one of them now. EDC is one of many data sources, and it's really just the one that the site is using to report to a sponsor their the data that they've collected. And even then, it's the data that they've collected not electronically, because we can source data from EMRs now. We can, we have ECOAs, we have a bunch of other tools that we can use that, maybe a site is using as well. So EDC is now one of many, and I would argue that tools like CDB, things that we would call like a data workbench, is really, that's the hub now. And I think from a fragmentation point of view, is we still see plenty of organizations out there. We just did some research to confirm a lot of what I think a lot of us already knew. The idea was to start to quantify the cost of wasted effort, but what most of us in data already know is manual data review takes forever and it's inefficient. Third-party data reconciliation, like as we talk about the fragmentation, you have to reconcile that, if something is in this data set, it's also in this data set, and that is also hugely wasteful and takes a lot of people's time, because most organizations right now don't have a CDB-like tool. They don't have a tool that can automatically ingest all those data sources, that can harmonize them all into a single database. So when you're working with it, it's as if it all is in the same spot, because it is. But it also is able to automate a lot of the reconciliation, right? Most of the reconciliation that's getting done is just header information. It's not even actual data. Is the patient there? Is the visit there? Is the session number for the lab the same?
How do you match it all together, essentially?
Someone has to eyeball it.
Yeah.
Or maybe, the way that they do it right now, which is archaic, but it's one of those things that it's just the way it's been done, is, SaaS programs.
But also you were talking about standardization also, because if you've got data points from so many different, like for example, I analyzed this data from like a wearable, and in the beginning of the study, it was like a blood pressure cuff or something.
But as far as like the volume of data that comes in from those things, yeah, it's a challenge. Like, you're very rarely going to be you're not going to be getting a live feed, right? It's not, you're just constantly getting hit with data points coming in. But, every time you do get a new transfer, let's call it, or a new, a new delivery of that data, it just grows and grows exponentially. So I think, for one, again, the ability to just automate the ingestion of that and not have someone have to manually do it every time is a big piece of making that problem go away. But also, the protocols generally, most of the time, is going to define what point specifically of that stream is the important one, like which one you're aimed at for the purposes of the protocol, like with whatever the endpoint is, whatever it defines. And so at least the protocol can help you dial in which part of that stream you're looking at. But, for the purposes of the analytics, AI, all that stuff, at some point, all that information is going to be valuable. Someone is going to be able to, either through data science or AI, be able to look at that massive volume of data and be able to pick out things to, perhaps go and investigate. So it's all valuable. It's just how you manage it.
It's how you manage it, exactly. Manny Vazquez, everyone, Senior Director of Clinical Data Strategy at Veeva Systems. Thanks for joining us today.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Appreciate it.